Mhm.
Hi, Lisa. Great to have
Hello.
you today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So, we have lots of questions to talk about Tantra and your journey all this while for 11 years.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's do this. Before we begin, I actually like
Yes,
to,
please.
whenever I do interviews, I like to just light a candle, get us started, have the little ritual
Sure.
put in place. And this candle is actually called Gothic Cathedral. And the scent is just, it's lovely. If you could smell it here, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I like to have
That's
that.
beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. And just gets us in that space to like dropping in and being here and present right here, right now.
Absolutely. Yes, that's much needed.
Yeah. Yeah. For everybody, for all of us.
Yes, for all of us, and may this reach to anyone who would be watching our
Yeah. Yeah.
talk.
Let them have the scent and that whole experience.
Yep. Great. So, a little introduction about you, your life, and your work.
Great. Thanks. Well, my life is a big, long story. But I'll cut it down to what's important for the Tantra piece. I actually came into the field of Tantra in when I turned 40. And I had gone to a workshop. And in that workshop, a friend of mine wanted to go do this. She wanted to go to where the workshop was being held at the facility. She wanted to be in the facility more than anything else, but you had to go to a workshop in order to be there. So she chose this one and I didn't know anything about it. But when I entered the room, I got that feeling of like, what is this? Like, I'm supposed to be here, and this is supposed to be what it is. And as we progressed through the weekend, I just knew that this was something, this was my calling. I could feel it in every, like, I'm getting chills right now. I have goosebumps all over
Where
because of just
where was
talking.
that? Where was the first experience for you?
It was in a place called Esalen in California. And it's just it's a lovely facility that hosts many different kinds of workshops. But the particular workshop that I was going to was called Divine Feminine, and it was run by Caroline Muir. And Caroline now lives in Panama, and I get to go see her in October. So I'm really excited about that. But during that process, I remember sitting in that room and thinking, I'm an educated person, I've done all these studies and I've got a master's degree and I've done all these things and I've never heard of Tantra before. And what they were talking about, some of the practices that they were doing, some of the things that they were talking about, and the essence of sexual energy igniting our spiritual connection was all stuff that rang so true to me. And that stuff that I knew from years ago. Like, I was a kid who knew a lot of things. Like, I came into the world just knowing things. My mom would always
Uh,
be like, where did you get that? I'm like, the angels told me,
oh,
Mom, the angels told me. And she would be fascinated by the whole thing. So when I stepped into that room and I had those experiences, at the end of the workshop, I went up to Caroline and I said, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be teaching this. I know this in every cell of my body. And she said, great, come along and join us. And you can do our teacher training. And it starts whenever, I don't remember the month it was, but what was interesting is I had a pact because my son was at war. He was in Iraq and he was fighting and he was in the army. And I had made a deal that I wouldn't leave the United States while he was at war. And
mhm.
I'm a big traveler. I travel a lot, but I promised I wouldn't leave the United States to myself. It was more to me than anything else. And their first training actually was in Hawaii. And I went, okay, well, it's not leaving the US totally. it's leaving the continent a little bit, but I can do this. Like, it works in my field.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I did that first training, and I just knew, I knew all along that this is what it was meant to be. And it was really interesting because, you know, a lot of the sexual pieces, which is what attracts most people, when they first hear about Tantra, they hear about the sexual things and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
I want that. I want that. And it's like, it's so much more than that. But those first pieces around the sexual energies and how sexual energy moves through our body and connects us in a deeper way, that was all stuff that I was so familiar with, that I knew in my core. And a lot of the stuff that we were learning in these workshops, in the teacher trainings and all the stuff, was stuff that I knew. But I didn't have the words for it. I didn't have
I
the
think,
vocabulary. So we need to talk about it.
right. I feel alike. Even I feel quite drawn to the concepts of Tantra, and I do my research and study as well. I think people like us, they kind of have it coded, encrypted in a DNA or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you come into the world already knowing, but
Yeah.
somehow culture and all the things that happen kind of take that knowing away from us and make us doubt ourselves. But I believe that everybody has a knowing in deep inside themselves, and there is an basic understanding of spirituality, of connection, of all of this stuff. But it's the other things that we let take over, that we lose that side of it, and then we're constantly in this place of, I mean, people are always looking for something to feel that fulfillment when it's right here. It's always been right
Absolutely.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always been right here. And I mean, even me, there's times when I feel like, oh, I'm so lonely, or something is, you know, I need another person. And the reality is, no, I don't. I'm fine. I'm perfectly fit. You know, I'm so good with where I'm at in my life right now, that yes, when there's other people, I get to share that with them, but I
Right.
don't need them. Like, I used to think I needed to be in a relationship. I needed to
Right.
have that partner. And now I realize that that's just, you know, me not paying attention to myself and to my inner self, to my higher self, and to my true nature.
Wow. And so pretty much you've got your workshops and tantra coaching around like in USA itself. So mostly in and around USA.
Actually,
Right?
I've actually taught all over the world. I've
Oh,
done workshops in Thailand with my master teacher, Charles Mirror.
okay.
We've done things in Thailand. I've had clients in Dubai. I've just traveled all over the world, Indonesia, Bali, and Sri Lanka, you know, and so while I'm traveling, oftentimes I'm doing different workshops and doing that kind of stuff. Of course, the last year we haven't been doing that, but you know, with the COVID thing, that kind of all put it to a halt. And so I've moved a lot of my beginner courses onto online platforms.
Online. Oh, yeah. Please share your details. I'll check on the I'll check once again, just in case. So people who want to connect with you online or for online courses, they can definitely contact you,
Absolutely.
or at
Yeah.
least follow you on one of the social media site. Uh,
Yeah. Please. That's
and
awesome.
sure. And in Tantra, I personally feel it's that inner, the inner voice or inner tuition, as we say it. I think that's a part of Tantra meditation. And most of my life so far, I have relied on the intuitional part of it, and I felt that is a constant meditation that was going on. So, what is your view on that?
Yeah, intuition is highly part of it. I don't believe, well, I believe that we all need some guidance, right? And that we
Mm-hmm.
have teachers and, oh, got something in my eye, sorry. We all have we have teachers and we have mentors, we have guides, we have these people that come into our lives and help us on our path, but we're the ones that choose that path. So when people talk to me, I just had a client who asked me about they have children and they want some kind of structure in their kids' lives, and they were talking about going to church and a specific denomination church, and they're like, but we also believe in the spiritual thing, and what does this all mean? And I'm like, it's the path that you choose. So I think it's good to give the structure and the basic understanding of what this is, and then we get to choose, does that resonate with me? Does that make sense to me? And when people also, like, even for myself, when I was like, oh my God, I'm 40 years old and I don't know anything about this stuff, and realizing that I wasn't ready until I was ready, it presented itself to me in a way that I was ready to accept it. So I think that's another piece of it, which is about intuition. And so when we come into the meditations and we come into some of the practices, we get to have somebody guide us initially, like some of the breath work. You need some guidance around some of the breath work. It's like, I do what? Show me again. And then once you start doing it, I believe you start feeling it, and all of a sudden that intuition piece opens up and you know what you need to do for you. So I think about, like, when I was pregnant with my daughter, my first child, I went to the classes, the Lamaze classes that we have. And, these are birthing classes. This is how you're supposed to breathe. And I'm like, okay, so I did all the practices and I did all the stuff. But when it came time to actually have that baby, the breath that they were telling me to do was not the breath for me. And I tried to do it for a little bit, but I was fighting it instead of flowing with it. And I knew that. And again, I was 19 years old and I knew this wasn't the right breath. So I took on a different breath and I started moving this energy, and the contraction actually started becoming pleasurable. So I had an orgasmic birth with my daughter, my first child. And it was incredible. It was so amazing. But I think what happens is people step in and they're like, you're supposed to breathe like this. And they try and get them to breathe a certain way. And the reality is, like, let's learn a bunch of different breaths, different kinds of breaths that we can do in any kind of situation. And then allow yourself to know, what breath you need. You know what the proper breath is for that moment, and do it, because all those practices led you to here. And now just listen to yourself, listen to your inner self guide you, and do the breath that feels right for you. And I think when we do that, that's when the magic happens.
Absolutely. This one is new to me, and surely our viewers will be benefited from this. I believe that the ancient way of birthing, I think that's quite prevalent nowadays, and that's taking place again. Yeah, so that will be beautiful if
Yeah. And
probably
this,
in near future if we can have a workshop where you explain only about that uh,
I would love to.
way of birthing, the normal way of birthing, which was
Yeah,
kind of lost, but we need that back soon.
I believe so too.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I mean, we do hear it coming back in more and more, with midwives coming in, and different kinds of birthing of birthing techniques that are available to us. But really, we know what to do. We are
Yeah.
we
The
are of the animal kingdom. Animals go out and birth every single day, and they don't take Lamaze classes. They don't take classes in how to birth because they know how to do it. They just allow their bodies to do what the body does, and they breathe with it, and they go into it. And I'm not saying that birthing doesn't hurt. It does, but can you transmute that pain into pleasure? And we all do. I believe, when the baby comes, all of a sudden all that pain goes away, the endorphins kick in, the oxytocin hits our brain, And all of a sudden, all we can see is this child that we're so deeply, deeply in love with. And I see that in the animal kingdom as well, in the animal world as well. And again, we are in the animal kingdom. Humans belong in the
Absolutely.
animal kingdom. We're there too. And so I think that sometimes having this bigger brain or bigger access to our brain doesn't always mean that we're all that smarter in all the things, because like, let's
Yeah.
use that brain to allow us to come into what is natural, what comes natural to us as far as like having babies.
Hmm. Yes. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah,
Great. So, shall we go to our next question?
sure.
Um, how Tantra practices can heal bonds of marriage in today's world, considering the current situation.
Right. So I
Like
think
there was a word, like I was just checking on news, like the shadow pandemic, where mental stress and the divorces were at a greater rate, and yeah, the virus was a very small thing. So, how Tantra can really
So I
heal?
think what Tantra does for people that are married or couples, however that shows up, is that it allows us to have some practices that we get to do together that remind us of that core love that we have for one another, and helps us, because when we're in that space, when we're sitting together, for example, and we're doing an eye gazing experience, it's our souls that are actually coming together and talking. If we can be quiet here and be
Mhm.
quiet here, don't have all this, but have that like connection, and we're doing that breath together in deep eye contact, it just, our souls start talking, and the energy from our bodies begins to merge together and interweave and come together. And that's that beautiful. And I mean, that doesn't even have to be with your partner. That can happen with just another human being, is that we can connect and we weave our energies together for this moment. And we remember that on that soul level, how connected we all really are. So in the marriage, if we're doing this and we're
Mhm.
having these moments, like I tell my my couples that, I recommend having 2 to 5 minutes every morning, at least every morning, and when you come back together. So when in the morning, when you first wake up, do your own loving myself awake practice, which
Mhm.
I'll give you the link to the free meditation. I have a free guided meditation called Loving Myself Awake.
Okay.
But do that for yourself first, because we need to take care of ourselves first, and then connect with your partner with the eye gaze and with allowing that energy to flow between the two of you before talking, before words come out, before you say, oh, good morning, or anything like that. Have a minute or 2 minutes, 5 minutes of just eye gazing and allowing the energies to come together. And then you get to start your day. Now, let's say you both go off and go to work, do all your things, have all the stuff. When you come back together, again, at least another 2 minutes, no talking, not how is your day, blah, 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 not all that. Come
Mhm.
together, make an agreement that you come together, have 2 to 5 minutes of breathing together and eye gazing, and then you can begin the conversation. But allow your energies to come back in and go, okay, let's get rid of the day. Let's, all that was in the past. Now it's our turn to be together. That's one of my favorite things to suggest to couples. And I believe that Tantra allows us
That's
to
beautiful.
yeah, so that we're coming back into the present moment. We're coming back into our partnership. We're coming back into the love and realizing, and it's not just that, because it's the energy of the love. When we weave those energies together and we feel it, we feel that connection. It's like coming home. You're just like, oh, yeah, this is beautiful and I love this. And then you can have your conversation. And I think that that takes a lot of the stress of the day off your shoulders. Let's go of all the stuff
Absolutely.
that's been
Yeah.
going on, and not, instead of talking about it, because I think my belief system is that a lot of people want to talk about their day, their trauma throughout the day, like all these terrible
Stress.
things that
Mm.
happened, and
Yeah.
like, and then it just anchors it in your system and anchors that anger or frustration or anxiety or whatever the emotion is, it anchors it. And then instead of actually having this time to connect and be together, and for me, when I do that, I forget about all that other stuff, like, because now I'm here in this moment and I don't have to, like, how was your day? Doesn't matter, because how is right now is like, this is
Mm.
beautiful. This is
Yeah.
really
That
connected
makes
and love.
that's
Yeah.
great point.
Instead of coming together and just instantly complaining about all the things that went wrong in our day. And I think some people do come in and talk about the good things too. And
Mm.
that's a nice thing as well. But even that, like, still happened in the past. What are we doing right now? I want to be connected with my partner right now.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Nice one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to our next one. Next question. What services do you offer to mend the relationships between husband and wife? Yeah, which are the online modules, courses that you offer?
So right now I offer 3 online courses, and one is for the men so that they can learn how
Uh-huh.
to differentiate their energy, their sexual energy between orgasm and ejaculation. So that's for them, so they can learn that. And they
Mm-hmm.
become masters of their own sexual energy. They become masters of their energetic system, and then it flows. I have a course for women that is all about yoni egg and exploring your pelvic floor, which teaches you about your anatomy in
Mm-hmm.
ways that we were never taught in school. Things that you just don't know until you start exploring a little bit more. But I teach
Mm.
about that, as well as using the yoni egg and having that kind of practice. So I teach that for the women. And then I have a course that's called Soulful Intimacy for Couples. And
Mm-hmm.
that is filled with practices that you get to come together and have, these connection moments, like what we just talked about, the eye gazing. That's one of the things that I teach in that course. And there's so many other things to help us to bond and bring that love connection in, and remind us that at the core of this relationship, of this partnership, at the very, very core, is that love. And we want to always remember that it's love. The reason we're together is because we
Right.
love each other, and we want to enhance that love. And how can we take that love and that sexual energy that we have with each other, and how can we increase it exponentially and open up to a more spiritual love, right? And feel that, like, have that cosmic sexual encounter with each
Experience.
other.
Mm.
Yeah. And we get to be that with one another.
Right. That's great. Hmm. Okay. Um, our next question, in today's world, how can Tantra be a solution for dysfunctional marriages? And just to add to that, I see this most of the uh, marriages I've seen in India, most of the couples that I've seen in India, tremendous gap of communication. So how can we solve this?
One of the things I believe, like, I'm going to come back to that whole eye gazing thing,
Mm-hmm.
because communication, communication comes, we need to have communication because we're we're humans and we like to have, we're oral and we talk and we have these things and we want to share in that way, to have stories and share our stories and have this connection. What I think has happened over time, again, is this part of coming in and talking about the traumas or the dysfunction or whatever it is, rather than focusing on the love and focusing on that energetic connection. So when we connect energetically first, so even if a couple is having an argument or a disagreement or whatever it is, to take a break from that, take a time out, if you will, go to your separate rooms and then get yourself back into yourself. Find your core essence, find your space where you're not in that triggered emotion. And in order to get there, feel that emotion, feel it fully through your whole body. Actually, if you're angry, feel that anger go through you all the way and define it, like go deeper with what that anger is. Why are you really triggered in this moment? But this is to do on your own. I don't believe that it's beneficial to do this with your partner. I think that you need to find your core issue within yourself. Once you find that, so because most of the time when our partners have irritated us or done something, that's the straw. But there's many straws before that broke the camel's back. And so if I can recognize that this thing really, like, okay, let's say my partner didn't put the dishes away and I'm angry that they didn't put the dishes away. But is it really that they didn't put the dishes away? Or am I feeling unseen? Or I'm feeling unworthy? Or I'm feeling that I'm not being heard? Whatever those things are for me, if I can come into that and then start looking, like I felt it here, I felt it there, I felt it there. And most of the time it's not just with my partner, excuse me.
No.
But it's also throughout my day, I've had these things happen. And so if I can really recognize that and then come back to my partner and say, okay, I'm ready to talk. Are you ready to talk? When we're both in that place where we've put the trigger aside, we put the emotion aside, and then they say, yes, I'm ready to have the conversation. I'm settled down. Okay, great. Let's have 2 minutes of eye gazing and connecting. So we can come into this. And then I can actually come into my true self and say, I wasn't really mad about that. I was mad because of this other thing, because this is how I've been feeling all day long. And then I'm not blaming them. I'm actually taking ownership of my own feelings and my own emotions that are happening. It's not, you did this, you did that, you did the other. It's more like, no, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling like I'm not being heard. And I really want to be heard. And so in order for me to be heard, this is what I need. And so if we can start bringing communication to that helps us. The tantric piece of this is being present in the moment. And that thing of calming ourselves, soothing that distressing emotion that we just had, recognizing it, feeling it completely, and then soothing it for ourselves. Then coming back to our partner and say, okay, now I'm ready to connect with you and have this and explain what was going on for me, and then allow them to explain what was going on for them. The tricky part in this is not blaming and remembering that I'm responsible for my own emotions. It's like when I teach women yoni egg practices, I teach them that they are responsible for their own orgasm. Like, your partner's not responsible for your orgasm. Your partner's not responsible for pleasing you sexually. You're responsible for that. So again, it's the same thing with communication and dysfunction.
So that's like individual responsibility. I think Tantra gives us that teaching where, yeah, the more individually responsible we are, it's better. Yeah,
Yeah, I
amazing.
think
Okay. And um, Yeah, all right. So, yeah, our next question. What situations led you to become a Tantra coach? And what
Ah,
things unfolded for you to make this as your purpose of life?
right. Well, it's like what I talked about in the very beginning. When I entered that
Oh,
classroom, I realized like this is my calling. This is where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I believe that part of that was when I was connecting with some of the practices that they were talking about. So they were
mm-hmm,
talking, there was a whole big thing around Amrita, female ejaculation. And I knew about it because I experienced it, but I didn't know anybody else who had experienced it. And I didn't know the words. I didn't know what to tell my partners about this. So when I had sex with somebody,
mm-hmm.
and the Amrita came, I knew this was like a blessing. This was a flow, a beautiful, beautiful blessing from the universe, from God. And I didn't know how to explain that eloquently enough to my partner. So I was shamed
Mm-hmm.
for it. Well, they tried to shame me for it, and all this, to the point where I put it away. Like I would
Oh,
stop. I learned how to stop that flow, which then caused me all kinds of physical issues with
oh
bladder
God. Mm-hmm.
infections and UTIs and stuff like that. And so that was one of the main things, is like I felt it was my purpose to get this information out to women, to people, that, this can happen. And when it
Yeah.
does, it's amazing, and it's a miracle, and it's a blessing, and it's all these wonderful things. And it's not bad. It's really beautiful
Natural healing as well. Yeah.
and healing. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's something that happens with that flow that brings me even into a deeper connection with God, with my God, with my higher self, with however that unfolds for
Yeah.
you, whatever the words are in
Right.
those moments.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, for me, when it's happening and it's having that deep flow like that, and I'm deeply connected, and I'm eye gazing with my partner, and we're having this amazing moment, I actually feel like I go out into the universe and I'm dancing with God, if you will. I mean, that's how powerful
Mm.
it is, that my soul is just so happy in those moments. And I didn't know how to explain that to anybody before I learned about this path. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the main reasons why I stepped into the field. Now,
And
after I've been here for a little bit, of course, the sexual pieces is what hooked me. Like, I got hooked on that. That was really cool. Like, you're finally giving me words that I can use. Yay. And then what I learned too was I went deeper with it, and I went into the meditations and into the practices and into, the deeper context of what Tantra really is. And Tantra being a spiritual path way beyond just these little pieces of the sexual things,
mhm,
which are really super
it's
fun and exciting,
enormous. Yeah.
but it's
But
so
it's
much
much more.
more. Yeah, so
Exactly.
much
Because
more. Yeah.
explore on, like, yeah, I'm on the same path, just a toddler. But, but yeah, I've always felt a deep connection towards tantric concepts, tantra concepts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, there was one sign, like, I happened to go for a Zumba event, but I was living very close to the Osho ashram in Pune. So
Uh-huh.
I realized it later. So that was like a sign for me. So what were
Yeah.
the signs you came across which finally told you, like, yes, this is it, this is what you should go for? So what were the
Uh,
signs which probably people are getting it, but they're not able to really interpret?
yeah. So, I mean, like I said, the signs for me was when I entered that workshop and felt
Just
that,
before
like,
that, any hints, any pictures, anything like that?
um, I don't really recall anything prior to, I mean, I've had all these experiences in my life, you know, where I knew that this was coming there, the information was coming to me from a higher source, if you will, and it was flowing. So I feel like throughout my life, I've always followed that intuitive path. And so even going to that course, you know, I was guided to that course, but I wasn't like, it was like, oh, let's do this class. And I said, okay, I'll do it, you know, and it was just instant knowing that I needed to go into this class, not knowing what the class was about, not knowing what I was going to be doing. And then that feeling of being in there. And every time even now, when I've been teaching in the past with my Tantra teacher, with Charles Muir. I'm his a teacher trainer for his courses. I have been that in the past. And you know, as soon as I finished my studies, then I went right into the teaching. And it was you know, the minute that he and I saw each other, the very first time, we had eye contact and from across the room, and we were just felt this magnetic pull, and had that moment, like I said, of this sharing. And I didn't really know, I mean, I was brand spanking new into this stuff. And I was like, what is going on? And he started talking about a past life experience. And he said, we will teach again together. And my brain wanted to say, I don't know what you're talking about. Get out of here. But my soul recognized what he was recognizing. And he saw that piece. He saw this thing, and he opened that door for me to also know that this was the truth. And so when I feel that truth come in, that's when those chills come, and I get goosebumps, and I feel it all over my body. And I'm like, oh, this is the truth. This is my truth in this moment. And so those things happen all the time. And that's what guides me on the path to being in this place of where I am helping others. And then I want them, you know, I want to share this beautiful path with as many people as I can who are ready and willing to receive it. And when it is in alignment with somebody, they know it, and they just follow the path, and then pretty soon they're doing their own thing with it.
Right. Wow, that was nice.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. So our last question: one message for women of India.
One message for the women
It's
of
high
India.
time women start exploring themselves first, because I see that's very rare here.
My message and my gift to not just the women, but to everybody really, is that loving myself awake meditation. It's a free guided meditation. So the message behind that is come into your own being first and foremost, connect with yourself, recognize your true self, your soul, and then reach out to your partner or to another person from that place of compassion and love. And when we come from that rather than anything else, that's where the true magic happens. That true connection is opened up. The connection with me first, and then the connection with you.
And just to top it up, how do you look at, like, how Tantra can really benefit in coming few years for a lot of people? How do you see it?
How does
Because
Tantra,
very less of that is practiced here, but if there is online coaching, it will be amazing. Uh, once people get to know that, yes, this is happening.
yeah, I think that if we open up the door and we are able to talk, especially like, I don't know what happened with sexuality and why it's so taboo in the world, but if we can get past that and we start really recognizing that sexual energy truly is a source within ourselves, to enhance our lives, to help us live a more blissful life, when we start recognizing that, then we can also open the door to having more open conversations around sexuality, to that it not being so taboo, to bring it into the forefront and be able to talk about it like you talk about history. And so we have those pieces. And when we're able to do that, when we're able to be more open and free with our sexuality, I think we'll be more open and free in our societies.
Right. Hope we do that soon because I'm feeling all the kind of things that are happening in India. Tantra is a solution for it. And it feels like we can tap into that particular energy, that timeline, and shift things quite a lot.
I think so too. You know, there's a story that I remember early on in my studies about the tantrikas of, you know, ancient times, and how the tantrikas actually would take the youth and teach them these practices, how to be with one another, how to be sexual, and how to weave your sexual energy together to open up and expand into this more spiritual realm, and how to be in that place. And I also remember the other story of that being that when the men went off to fight in war, that when they came back to the village, they went to the tantrikas first, and they were loved and healed back into
Okay.
a place of where they could be with their families, and they could be with their partners, and they could be with their children, rather than coming straight from war and trying to get back into, you know, family
Normal.
life. That's got to be, you know, today's world, we talk about PTSD a lot, but I think if we were loved back whole, then that PTSD wouldn't be happening like it is. If we could actually come into a place where we, you know, something happens to you, because things happen to all of us. And for some people, it becomes PTSD, and for others, it doesn't. And I believe it has to do with love. I believe that, you know, when we are able to love ourselves and really go, okay, I'm taking responsibility for my parts in this, and being able to heal that piece of whatever happened, and then there it is, and I'm back whole, and I feel that wholeness within me, because we're all perfect, whole, and complete right here, right now, in this very moment. You're perfect, whole, and complete. And when we remember that, then all that other stuff goes away, and we don't have to be in that space. We don't have to keep reliving the traumas. We don't have to keep visiting all of that stuff that happened, because in this present moment, we're perfect, whole, and complete.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I got to know quite a lot of new things. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, so I'll add all the links below the talk in the description so that people can connect with you.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot and hope to see you live sometime soon.
Yes, thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
Thank you for inviting me and being part of bringing this out into the world. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. See you.
Okay, bye-bye.